Is this infrasound related to all of the booms, the metallic scrapings, the trumpet sounds? The question mark is hanging there. That's what the geophysicist was implying. The Stanford University geophysicist said, I cannot rule this out as a hypothesis because, and this is the part that is so relevant to this phenomenon, she said, we know that infrasound can be generated by the lava in a liquid state, molten lava, moving up through the mantle of the Earth out to the crust, breaking out into volcanoes, and that infrasound, in some circumstances, could go up to the ionosphere, be bounced back, and where it is bounced back to the surface of the Earth could perhaps at certain points be heard as audible, actually loud sounds. That was a breakthrough because this is hard geophysics at Stanford University coming to meet a whistleblower, which in journalism, whistleblowers can help you a lot, but then the journalist is left with proving it. And you need hard evidence, you need people who are willing to go on the record to back up leaks. So now, since 1 year ago, I have been talking with others who are in geophysics. I did an interview last month with a man who is an infrasound expert. They are learning the most interesting things that is current research in 2014 that people have never studied before. That infrasound is emanated from a whole host of things, and could it be generated from something that is changing inside of the Earth and being translated into the booms, the metallic scraping sounds. Here is the kicker of current research, the geophysics research at Stanford and the whistleblower. Infrasound can, under certain circumstances, when it collides with something called a Rayleigh wave, which can be generated by changes in the Earth's crust, when those two come together, it can be like a megaphone, it can be like a boom, and it can be as isolated as one house or two houses or larger. This has been the biggest mystery to me. I interviewed maybe in the last 3 years 50, 60, 70 people. The vast majority would say, we ran out of our house expecting to see our neighbors. Our walls are shaking, the floors are shaking, the ceiling is shaking, the windows. A police officer in Georgia told me that he had his own garage door knocked out of the garage track by a boom that he heard at lunchtime. He was on duty but went home for lunch. So how could this be that people will run out, have physical evidence and sometimes even cracks in their sidewalk, and nobody is coming out? It's because multiple ear witnesses are stronger. That whistleblower, which was a year ago, said they were expecting there to be an increase in seismic and volcanic activity because of what they were measuring. When the last 12 months have been unfolding the way they have, every day I am being reminded about that haunting statement because so many more people are reporting these booms, shaking their walls, all of this, and this strange, where it can be just focused on a building or a house. That's always been confusing until now, recent research about how infrasound might be so targeted. But the seismic explanation here is another disconnect that is so strange. In Clintonville, Wisconsin, in March of 2012, the first national reporting about the strange booms was on all of the networks focused on Clintonville, Wisconsin. And it began on Sunday to Monday, March 18th to 19th, 2012. And this was a series of booms so loud that night, in the dark, out came the city administrator, Lisa Kuss. She was interviewed by Fox and CNN and everyone later, and all of her city authorities, because they were getting phone calls from the police and others, getting hundreds of calls from people in Clintonville, Wisconsin, saying that there is a loud boom, and its strongest times were 1:45 a.m., even though the first calls began at 9:30, but hundreds of people were calling at 1:45 a.m., 5:30 a.m., 7:15 a.m. on March 19th, and that's why the city administrator, and the authorities got out in the night, and she told me in an interview, as far as I know, was the first person to interview her, that she was walking on a sidewalk in an area where a man had said it sounded like a car crashed into the cement sidewalk or the side of his house. That was the interesting description. And she said she was walking in that sidewalk area. They were seeing cracks. And she said suddenly there was this loud boom sound on the bottom of her feet. The city administrator in Clintonville, Wisconsin, heard from a slap on the bottom of her feet on the sidewalk. But it didn't happen only once. It happened a second time at another one of the booms. So now the city administrator is one of the people who becomes an ear witness and an eyewitness to what is going on. This went on for 10 days in Clintonville. They were having constant shaking of houses and buildings. They were constantly going out. They went immediately to the United States Geological Survey and said, "What are we dealing with?" And the survey came back repeatedly saying there is no seismic activity. Meanwhile, in other parts of the United States, while Clintonville, Wisconsin is finally becoming a Fox, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, they're getting this attention on the boom phenomena in Clintonville, Wisconsin. This was expanding out into other areas of Wisconsin, and there were reports in San Diego, there were reports in the Midwest, there were reports all over the place while this was happening in Clintonville. And then the strangest thing happened. About 10 days into this, she held a press conference, and she brought in some city authorities and said to this press conference, there were over 100 citizens who came, that they now had a 1.6 seismic recording at the USGS, so it has to be seismic activity. Go away, everybody. There's no mystery here. Well, that was completely wrong. That was a political move to get the public and the media off the city's back. There was no answer to what was happening in Clintonville. There would be no explanation with a 1.6 seismic event. Even if it happened, it would not explain 10 days. It would not explain the slap on the bottom of her own feet twice. Now, adding to the complete and total confusion of what was going on was only 4 days before all of that activity in Clintonville that made all of the networks finally, only 4 days before in Georgia, southeastern Georgia. And I always reference this because 5 counties, thousands of people, I'm looking at the headline right here from news4jax.com, something shakes Southeast Georgia. Report of loud boom, earth-shaking reports come from 5 counties all at the same time. There was a police officer, Todd Rhodes. He told Channel 4, quote, "It was a noise that literally shook our home," the police officer. There was some panic there because when you hear a noise that far-reaching, and you're not only hearing it, but you're feeling it, you don't know what it is, and you're saying, what is this? Well, they went to the U.S. Geological Survey, 5 counties, 911, police, everybody. And the USGS says no seismic evidence of any earthquake, and the Naval Submarine Base in Kings Bay said, quote, "We weren't conducting any operations that would have caused flooding." Now we are back to the whistleblower, that the reason that I was told that the intermediary was contacting me is that I'd been doing all those boom reports, that they were worried that there would be an increase in earthquakes and volcanic activity, and at the top of their list of the greatest worry was Yellowstone. And right now, I can at least assure all listeners that all of the geophysicists at the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory that I've talked with a lot of scientists there, they say as long as the seismic activity stays in the 1.6 to 2.6 in that range, which is happening in Oklahoma, they're getting hundreds and hundreds of seismic reports in Oklahoma and have for the last 3 months. As long as the seismic activity is staying low, if you hear about anything getting up to a 5 or higher, even 1 in Yellowstone Park, it is really time to pay attention.